H.L.I.O log entry 3147. TISC, full introduction. Welcome to TK, dear friend. You are going to learn about the number one species inhabiting this planet and their culture. I am talking about the TISC. Love them or hate them, these little furballs were discovered in 11 Light Lane universe and are one of the oldest in terms of lore. So without any further ado, let's begin with the complete TISC species and their home world. TISC. The TISC are an anthropomorphic race of pika that live up to 100,000 years old and are well known for their illusionary arts and their rivalry with another species called the mimic. For centuries, the TISC range from anywhere from 4 foot to 4'6" for adults, with centuries being a variable. The TISC are able to lift 5 times their own body weight and eat up to about a fourth in their own body weight, with drinking as much water as well. The fastest TISC was clocked about 97 miles per hour, while the strongest could lift about 9 times their own weight. The TISC have an average IQ of 500 and are more advanced than most of the other races. Because of their deceitful behavior, the TISC are normally treated terribly by races that are not familiar with them. Races that are familiar with the TISC, however, see them as friendly and kind towards others who come onto their planet and follow their rules. The TISC don't wear any clothing, except for a few exceptions of the north, east, and west. The south do not wear any clothing unless they leave the planet. The TISC worship aged spirits that have transcended to a god/goddess-like status and grant powers to those born of their bloodline. The TISC are omnivorous and eat meat or their foes in battle. The mouths are antiseptic and clean the meat so they can avoid stomach infections and everything like that. An autopsy revealed that they have an organ that allows them to be able to identify family members who have been separated for long periods of time. This was recently discovered by Human-Less Intelligence Operations Scientists, or otherwise known as H.L.I.O. TK. TK is an abnormally large planet full of mountains, prairies, wetlands, and marshes, and forests. The atmosphere gives the planet a greenish-blue tint to the air around it. The gases most present are methane, 40%, and carbon dioxide, 50%, with a 10% water vapor in the air. South of the planet is mainly grassland and plateaus alongside mountains and hills. It also has 13 different moons that orbit around it, with 6 being planets themselves. The orbit of the sun takes 10 years on Earth for TK. Language. The TISC main language is made of squeaking, barking, howling, growling, roaring, bellowing, yelping, chirping, and snarling. Squeaking and chirping are the most common and make up most of the civil language alongside barking and howling. The more militia or call to alarm language is growling, which represents anger, while snarling, even though worse in terms of usage, stands for importance. Bellowing is for war cry. Laws. All civilians and people visiting TK must respect any command an enforcer of general gives. Any and all orders that are given to break the rest of the rules/laws are to be reported to the nearest sentry in a timely manner. All goods must be fresh or be affordable to even those of the lowest class. Any attempts to swindle or outcompete the fellow marketer will be considered a capital offense and will result in banishment from the stalls or market until further notice. Any assaults on the guards or enforcers will result in jailing unless a justifiable cause is given. Any guard or enforcer of power is to be reported to Furpike or Toza as soon as possible. If not a cry for a H.L.I.O or hotspot sentry. Any attempts to slander your fellow citizen or guard will result in jailing regardless the reason. Defacing any property of sentries or civil guards will result in the same punishment. Revolts and any intention to harm your fellow Tees will result in death, no hesitation. Any and all foreign entities are to be reported to Fur Pike and Tone as soon as possible. If neither are available, Ground Bureau is to be used as the lowest source of inspection to all foreign goods and people. Jobs. Smith. Smithing on TK is one of the most important jobs and is what keeps the villagers guarded alongside the sentries. Smiths are considered a high class alongside the farmers. They have a payout of 30 gold a day for a day's worth of work and are most proud of the villages they live in. They are also the most sought out after besides the farmer and miner. And the smiths pass on their forges to all their kids, allowing the chance of all of them making a living, keeping the rest of the art of forging alive. The hours per day required are 7 to 8 hours per week and 210 gold or silver, all depending on taste or preference. Farmers. Farmers are the nicest out of all the higher classes, even growing and overproducing for those in need. Farmers are required to house all hands on their property, and all living there are required to pay their dues to the main farmer by supplying themselves with food, while shelter and water are provided. Land bought by a farmer is returned every winter for protection by the throne to prevent thieves. Hours per day, 9 to 11 daily, with a payout of 200 gold or silver. Miners. Miners are considered middle class but are most paid and protected out of all the jobs. This is because of the uncertainty of the mines. A weekly inspection is conducted by both silos and hotspot sentries. They live also near the edge of the villages and are the most common to be found wandering about. They are more hostile to foreigners on their planet. It is all to protect the inner villages, to give them time to flee if any hostile threat comes about. Hours per day, 7 to 9, payout 700 gold. Marketers, the booth sellers / jewelry makers. The marketers are known as the economy of TK and are all members that are considered low class. They tend to be most active only to their own kind, not offering any goods to any non-native Teesk or entity. They earn the least amount of gold because of their nature and the laws. Despite this, many boothsayers will tell you get to meet a lot of people and a lot of families you never would in other jobs. Hours per day, 15 hours, payout 35 gold or silver a day. Market goods. The food of the TK varieties by class. Most of what are called lower class eats, they are different but more than earthbound foods, but the bulk are normally soup, and stew, and other base pie-like foods. Weapon replicas. These are sold to those who would like some sort of replica of one of the native Tees weapons but don't want to buy the real stuff from the smiths. They are a hot selling product and are the cheapest, costing 3 coins per replica, normally with a gem called thorium gem to show they're fake. Food. Vegetables or a type of fish called a fooner are sold for 2 to 3 coins per a pound. Cloths as matched. These are normally made out of some sort of hide of wildlife that inhabit TK by brushing tamed ones that are owned as a sign of status or family right. These sell to very noble families and normally get passed down when married or as a gift to a friend, each costing anywhere of 300 plus gold or silver. Gems. Sold as commonwealth to teach the young currency of the market. They are often kept and passed down, or they get lost. They sell for 1 gold coin each. Food. The food of TK varies by class. I've already read that, sorry. Bread. Made from some of the native grasses, the bread tends to be a usual high-class eat, with most purchases out of all of the other grass-made products/food. Figgle. A pumpkin stew mixed with other gourds and fish. It is the equivalent of a turkey dinner or during Thanksgiving. It is also a high-class food. Toak. A pumpkin-style mashed potato mixed with butter and topped with native grasses. Tiik. A bota, which will be explained later, wrapped in cheese and cucumbers and grass flour and baked on high. It tends to be a lower class favorite alongside the emperor's personal favorite dish. Huto broth soup. This is most commonly used with any meat available and can be substituted with any vegetables on hand. The flora and fauna. These are the native plants and wildlife of TK. Grass. While earthgrass tends to be mowed, the Tees use the taller variant of Earth's most well-known plant, and it tends to be used for stealth training, eating, nesting, and of course lying down on a summer's evening. The grass has a brownish color on TK and grows tall all year round, growing to a height of 3 feet. Torque nuts. Torque nut trees. Despite its name, the nuts produced are a form of seed that cannot be eaten by teeth, but tends to be used for toys for the young or eaten by other wildlife. They are more commonly known in the north, with smaller variations in the south, near the border of the two territories. The trees stand anywhere from 40 in the south to 60 feet in the north, with the taller growing in the north. Like I said, teaker trees. A large tree with huge strips of bark that cover over a mile long and that are homes to such wildlife as the nabler and the fillet. The Julina berry bush. A small berry bush scattered around TK's various biomes and only grows once a year, with only one plant ever growing a berry at a time. It is a small-looking dead bush that grows a brown pear-shaped fruit with swirls on it. Knar. It's pronounced Knar. A large cat-like creature the Teesk trained for loyalty. They have 8 legs and a huge torso. They are around 6 feet in height and about 8 feet in length. During spring, they are combed for their winter pelts, which are then made for fur-woven cloth and or rags. They are used by enforcers. Two normally sit by Toza's throne with a beautiful brown pelt and cyan blue eyes. Fooner. A fish that swims in the shallow lakes of around TK and is said to be very popular with the northern Teesk tribes. They have 3 eyes and said to be the best in the world when paired with ginger and pepper. Bota, a hog-like creature that normally is hunted by both Teesk and Knar. They have 2 tusks and a very broad body and are well known for their aggressive behavior. They normally take 6 to 10 Teesk to take down, or 2 Knar. Finyal, a large predatory bird that feeds on nabblers. I don't think I mentioned those yet. And Knar and have up to 2 babies in their lifetime, mates for life. They are blue to match with the teaker tree's leaves and are used by the Eastern Teesk clan as methods of travel. They are they also have two sets of wings, one for gliding and one for flying. They also eat obsidian to help grind up the meat they consume. Standard classes and traditions. Classes for the Tesk defines for job preference and lifestyle. High, middle, and low class all define on job preference and availability. Low class. These are the Tesk and jobs that stay more near the center of the villages, with the least amount of Tesk being interested in these classes because of the difficulty of keeping stock and relying on others for resources. They also tend to have the tidiest houses and stone beds. Middle class, tending to live on the outskirts of the city and to help with civil duty or defense, with the most donated to a sentry group called the Army Squad and other sentries. They're also the second most picked out of all the classes, with most of the generation joining either higher or lower class, which in turn applies more to the middle class. High class, most picked and the most full class. They tend to supply, protect, and feed the other classes and live in between middle and low classes, acting as a second line of defense after the middle class. Holidays. All Remember Day. During the entirety of what is known as October, one of the several months of TK, with there being 120 of them, 120 months, and a day that spans over the course of 10 Earth days. The dead are normally allowed to roam with the living and visit their loved ones or experience life again. This is also one of the very few holidays the mighty ground gets. He'll be mentioned later. First Harvest Light, another holiday for the god of spring. It celebrates the coming of spring in the month Ipar and lasts 1 week on TK, which is 10 weeks on Earth. A week where everyone takes a break and relaxes. Yule. This is celebrated for the coming of summer and lasts from the month of Juta to Ugat, and is where the pups get treats like Funa and Bota each day for every day. Sprung's Middath. This is the time the emperor, king, and ruler would gather with their people and court with either the other part or have a new one and court with each other in the middle of a prairie. Midday Hoozles. Day where everyone can decorate the village with whatever they want. It's to celebrate the coming of summer, another summer holiday, and the end of spring, another spring holiday. End day cleaning up everything. Deities. There are 9 total Tesk deities. Mighty Ground, god of the afterlife. Offerings, oranges, emblem, a small spiral with a sword through it. Location of shrine, mountain cemetery. Lore. The mighty ground is a spirit that guides those who have lost their lives to the afterlife, regardless what they did in life. They all end up at the same place. He visits those who are also about to die. Dreamer, god of the sun and day. Offering, dragon fruit. Emblem, a sun with 2 spears through it. Location of shrine, near Nephium village towards the south, with his sister's shrine on the other side. Lore. Praying to Dreamer will ensure a bright sunny day. Kids and pups who pray will be able to have a whole day undisturbed. Dremis, god of dreams and creativity. Offering, garlic. Emblem, a cloud with ears. Location, near the landing bay on the eastern edge of Nephium village. Lore. Praying to Dranos will allow you to make your dreams a reality. He is known for helping pups learn in their dreams about life and creativity. Samtarmus, god of summer and fun. Offering accepts any type of food. Emblem, a fire with a circle. Location, beside the god of dreams. Lore, blessings from Centaurus are very rare and is the form of a breezy summer and lots of shade. He is only seen on Spule with his brother, Springer, at noon, and his sister of fall during the passing. Springer, god of spring and gardening. Offerings accept any type of food. Emblem, a water droplet with a circle. Location, on the west side of the landing bay. Lore, blessings from Springer are in the form of mediocre rainfalls and healthy crops. He's seen alongside his brother Sumterus on Spool, and then his sister on the turning of winter to spring on the first harvest lights, but never seen with his sister of fall. Ymir, goddess of the moon and night. Offerings, grapes. Emblem, a full moon with in the mouth of a skull with 3 eyes. Location, north of Nephium village. Lore, praying will result in a sense of comfort and relaxation. She guards pups from evil. Nirnak, goddess of nightmares and reality. Offering, grapefruit. Emblem, a cloud with an eye in the center of it. Location, the west side of the landing bay beside the god of spring. Lore, praying to her will give you an insight to the future event that will affect your life. She is often seen sitting alone, crying with a third eye open and pulsating. She stares at the moon every night. Sitting by her will bring her comfort and help return her to the realm of the gods/goddesses. Volshura, goddess of fall and harvesting. Offering, accepts any type of food. Emblem, 3 swirls inside a circle. Location, south side of the landing bay. Lore, blessings from Volshura come in the form of huge crops and peaceful afternoons. She is often seen sitting by her brother Sumtaurus, drinking warm broth during the passing of summer to fall, and then again from fall to winter with her sister Winvat. Winvat, the goddess of winter and family. Offering accepts any type of food. Location, north of the landing pad. Lore, blessings from Winvat are light snows and close family bonds. She is often seen with her sibling Springer and her sister Volshura during the passing of winter and fall. Natural resources. Iron, gold, silver, copper, Ticorium. It is a dark gray color metal ore native to TK. Thorium, ruby, emerald, quartz, diamond, topaz, and sapphire are also all gems found. Government. The Tisk's form of government closely resembles that of a monarchy. The emperor, who had once been a king, had been given power by the other 8 kings/queens in his area, as well as the populace in those areas. The emperor commands his generals, which then commands the soldiers who help guide the village leaders in order to keep the villages around the part of their empire. There are 4 emperors in the south and a dictator who controls the east, west, and north. Commanders. Toza Fursalin, leader, the Tisk Imperial Empire and Army Squad. Gender, male. Eye color, emerald green, with no iris or pupil in his right eye, while the left is also emerald. Height, 4'6", age 85 in native, and translating it to 850 in human. Pelt color, pumpkin orange. Accent, a higher version of Sid the Sloth tone of voice. Weapon of choice, Conquer, a sword enchanted with the souls of dead. Description. Toza's right side of the face, starting from with his upper jaw to the back of his skull alongside the entire cheek, along with his right hand, has been replaced as well, with every other bit of his body being a natural orange color. Sika Mosspelt, leader, second in command, and leader of the Death Cult, nickname only used for the Five Below Toza. The Angel of Assassination, eye color, neon red with no iris or pupil for the left eye, while right eye is brown, hazel. Gender, male, height 4'3", age 83, translating into 830 in human. Pelt color, smoky gray, accent a distorted and scratchy British. Weapon of choice, his scythes and his claws. Description, Sika's left side of his face, from eye to scalp, has been replaced alongside both his arms, with the rest of his body being unaltered. Ground Mountain Burrow, leader, Biohazma, and the entire medical field of the Tesk Imperial Empire. Nickname, the cure to everything. Eye color, pearl white, with no irises. Gender, male. Height, 4'4". Age, 98 in Tesk, being 980 in human. Pelt color, dark oak brown. Accent, a low-pitched, distorted German accent. Weapon of choice, anything his paws and hands can grab that's nearby. Description, his entire lower head with his eyes have been replaced and has 6 tubes running through his body, with his entire torso and arms being replaced with every sensory attachment of the Biohazma, which you will learn about later. Lightning Bolt Rod, leader, general of the air and space forces and the Galactic Gazers. Nickname, Lord of the Fleet, or Lightning Eye. Color, eye color, blood red with no irises or pupil. Gender, male. Height, 4'2". Age, 93. Human, being 930. Pelt color, silver gray. Accent, a scratchy and high-pitched New York in accent. Weapon of choice, his sentry machine guns. Description, his entire jaw and mouth have all been replaced with a breathing machine attached to it to survive the vacuum of space, along with his torso and arms also being replaced. For Pike, or for Gold Pike, who is also of Lightning Rod. The head of communications and captain of the guard. Nickname Golden Spear / Echo Chamber. Eye color sapphire blue with no irises or pupils. Gender female, height 4'3", age 89 in Tesk, 890 in human. Pelt color golden brown. Accent soft Georgian. Weapon choice, her axes or a teiko, which will be explained later. Description, her lower jaw with entire neck, torso, and arms have all been centrified with the rest of her left alone. Riverfoot for Salem. Leader, this is Toza's cousin. Leader, commander of the Special Forces, nickname Maniac. Eye color, emerald green with both eyes normal. Gender, female, height 4 foot. Age, 83, being 830 in human. Pelt color, amber orange, accent similar to that of Candace from Phineas and Ferb. It is the best to describe it. Weapon choice, her mortar and her twin-barreled custom Zaith, which you will learn about later. Description, her neck and torso are the only things changed from her normal body. Okay, and now here are 2 other commanders from another district. Thunderflash, leader, the Grounding Wires, command chief, gender, male, eye color, golden brown, height 4'1", age 30 in native, translated to 300 in human. Pelt color, calico of orange and brown, accent none, only speaks native Tesk. No collars. Weapon of choice, an axe that he named Tokate, meaning fall from grace. Description: Thunderflash has stripes of orange around his right eye and on his left arm and down his back, with the rest of him being a plain brown color. Cloud Soother: leader of the templates clouds, gender female, eye color golden brown, height 4 foot, age 27 in native Tees, translated into 270 Earth years. Pelt color calico of brown and orange. Accent: none, speaks only native Tees. Weapon of choice: twin blades named Taki and Toki, meaning both life and death. Description: Cloud Soother has stripes of brown around her right eye and on her left arm and down her chest, with the rest of her being a plain orange color. Army Squad: this is the standard army of the Tees. They are used for taking out common infantry. Motto: loyalty to the true royalty. Silo Sentry: these sentries stand around 4'9" and are armed with a small 3-foot rocket on its back and 2 small hand rockets on its arms, and are the Bear Army Squad's sentry eye color green. Sentry parts: face, back, and arms. Hotspot Sentry: standing at 4'5" and armed with 2 Xanth and Xanther rifles. These make up the bulk of the entire army and are some of the quickest sentries. They stand ready for anything. Sentry parts: top of head with eyes, whole upper torso, and arms. Sightlocker Sentry: the personal spy and sniper of the Tees Empire. They are used for off-world missions. They stand about 4'3" and tend to be faster than the Assassin Sentry. Sentry parts: the entire head, back of neck, upper back, and upper arms to elbow. Juggernaut Sentry: used for taking a lot of fire and attacking ships in herds of 12 to 13 juggernauts. They stand about 4'6" and have a set of encased brass knuckles for denting steel enough to weaken it. Sentry parts: lower jaw to eye, casing the entire area back to back, entire neck, upper back, and arms and hands. Death Call: these are the assassins of the Empire. They do all the dirty work for the Empire and their leader. Motto: as swift as the night. Reaper Sentry: used as guards of the graveyard and for dealing with H.L.I.O operatives. They are equipped with scythe blades on their arms and stand ready for any orders given. A rope. They are also 4'5". Sentry parts: front of face leading to neck, with lower head, entire chest to shoulder blades, and entire arms. Executioner Sentry: stationed on TK was a transferred sentry from the hands of King's Guards. They kill H.L.I.O whenever they get a chance, and are former obedient to fur pike and armed with axes. Sentry parts: the same description as the Reaper, but with axes. Stalker Sentry: used for taking out targets on planets in stealth. These Stalker Sentries are Sika's personal guards and servants that bow to his every order. Stalker Sentry is a violent soldier that will attack anything that messes with their mission. They use 2 built-in blades tipped with poison. Sentry parts: upper jaw and eyes around the entire head like a band. The entire neck leading to the arms, leaving little to no corium on its body. Assassin Sentry: a more advanced version of the Stalker Sentry. They hunt in packs and overwhelm the target and will kill them in the dark. They are not to be trusted when alone. Sentry parts: the entire upper head with the rest resembling that of a stalker. Galactic Gazers: These are the pilots of both the air and space forces of TK. Once they are in pursuit, there is no escape. Ever. Motto: never turn back and never retreat. Colonel Pilot Sentry, marked with a small blue band on both its arms. They're also armed with a Zaith. They are the shortest out of all the pilots, being only 4 foot. Sentry parts include the entire head and arms. Note, this is the same for all normal Sentry pilots. Chestnut Pilot Sentry, marked with a small green band on both arms. These pilots are only capable of controlling or flying a chestnut. They are also guarded by hotspot or guard sentries. They stand at 4'3". Sentry parts, see Colonel for details. Cropper Mech Pilot Sentry, marked with a small orange band on its forehead. They are so very calm and silent, as well as resilient in tough times. They stand at 4'5". They also carry a Xanther in case of onboard intruders. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Potato Pilot Sentry, marked with a brown band on its forehead. This pilot seems to be friendlier with other factions, as well as answering more questions than its Tomato Pilot Sentry counterparts. They also stand at 4'2" and are similar heights to the Tomato pilots as well. They always carry a Zaith and a Bathar. They also tend to eat more than the other Teesk. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Tomato Pilot Sentry, marked with a red band on its forehead. It tends to be more focused on piloting than getting to know its passengers on board its ship. Stands at 4'2". It also carries a Zaith with 2 Batar. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Duster Mech Pilot Sentry, working in pairs of 2. The pilots are always in some sort of bond with each other. They are marked with a stripe of purple running down the center of their face. They are also 4 foot in height. They also carry 2 Zaith on them at all times. They trust their partner more than any other pilots. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Peeler Mech Pilot Sentry, marked with 2 white stripes running down over both of its eyes to its lower jaw. These pilots tend to be more shy to even their own allies and are the second smallest at 4'1". They always carry knives along with Bathars, which will be mentioned later in the weapons part. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Night Cloud Mecha Pilot Sentry. This pilot sentry, armed with a Zaith and marked with black stripes running down over the eyes and swirling backwards towards the ears from the upper jaw, forming some sort of smile. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Skiller Mech Pilot Sentry, marked with 3 blue stripes running down its forehead. It always works in pairs of 2, and the pair bond for life as a family. And if one dies, the other is soon to follow. They carry a Zaith and 2 knives. Sentry parts refer to Colonel Pilot Sentry. Biohazma. These are the medics and the most terrifying ones at that. These sentries are used for reanimation for fallen sentries and treat the civil populace when regular doctors are not available. Motto: there is always a cure. Medic Sentry, armed with 2 needles mounted on their arms and with a Zaith. The medic sentries have a twitch to them when they're not busy. They tend to seek out work by even helping with minor cuts or making new medicine. They are also the creepiest sentry and have tubes running from an air tank to a filter to filter out any hazardous material in the air. They are also most likely to turn on any humans. They are 4 feet tall, with sentry parts being the lower jaw to eyes and the entire back of the head, with the entire back, neck, and chest regions, and arms and hands. Paramedic sentry, a more advanced medic sentry with more needles and saws. They respond on more field calls alongside the EMT sentry and have a height of 4'7". Sentry parts: only the eyes and lower jaw with the arms and back. EMT sentry. These sentries are used for quick answering close range medical treatment near or around the stations they are placed. They also have a single needle or syringe on hand at all times. They are the cutest out of all the biohazard sentries and being the smallest, only at 4 foot. Sentry parts: lower jaw, neck, and arms. Hands of the King's Guard. These sentries cover communications and security for the Tesk Empire as well as serve as the guards for the commanders/leaders. Motto: always one call away at all times. Guard sentry, used for guarding Furpike and the villages around Toza's southern district of the planet. They are also the first response to all newcomers/invasions. It wields axes on its arms and stands also at 4'6". Sentry parts: Spartan-like attachments on its cheeks and eyes and arms. Enforcer sentry, used to keep the law and order of TK while standing at 4'11". They also use a pike-like weapon called a taiko and have a red stripe on their chest. They are also known for being more nocturnal. Sentry parts: entire head, neck, and chest and back. Transmission sentry, standing at 4'2" and armed with 2 knives. They have the same radio towers on their backs that allow a full survey of a 10-mile radius around them for scouting. They also record everything they hear. They are also the fastest sentries, running about 140 miles per hour from enemies. They are also one of the most curious about new creatures they meet. Sentry parts: whole jaw, both top and bottom, with built-in speakers, receiving food from 6 tubes running into 2 small tanks beside the tower in the center of their backs. The entire torso was replaced with both arms. Long mission sentry, the commander of the groups of 12 or less transmission sentries. They have a twin tower set up on their backs and stand about 4'8" with 2 Zafes holstered. They tend to be more solitary and find places to hide or stay near Furpike at all times, and always receive transmissions from night to morning 24/7 even while they sleep. Sentry parts: the chest and the back are the same as the transmission, but with the eyes and the entire back of the head along with the ears and arms. Tesk tactics. These are the special units used dealing with special weapons. Motto: burn, shock, and freeze. Pyro sentry. These sentries are used to attack special H.L.I.O soldiers/commanders. Their height is 4 foot with 2 flamethrowers on their wrists, with a tank on their back with specialized muzzle to resist smoke when they burn down H.L.I.O bases. Sentry parts: eyes with entire mouth/jaw, neck, and entire back with arms and hands. Cryo sentry. Similar to the Pyro sentry, the Cryo sentry is used to take out H.L.I.O commanders or special soldiers in close quarters combat. They also have the thickest fur. They have a cooler mood than their hot-headed Pyro cousins. Also standing at 4 feet tall. 4 feet tall. They tend to be more likely to show up than a Pyro sentry. Sentry parts: the entire head with running down its back to the center of the body with both arms. Tesla/Electro sentry. The third of the trio and most shocking out of all of them in terms of personality, also standing at 4'4". They use electricity and rods they have set up and have a pack on their backs that even allows for a small EMP in enemy territory, and are always sent alone for those missions. They also charge up the pack by standing in the rain during the thunderstorms, or charge it by using water-generated power from some of the mills around TK. Sentry parts: entire upper half of the head with neck, back, and chest and arms. Mortar sentry: similar to that of the silo sentry in terms of weapon placement, the mortar sentry has a mortar on its back and two smaller ones on its arms. It stands at the same height of 4'9" with one slight difference. As well, it has a blue streak on its forehead. Sentry parts refer to Silo Sentry Army Squad. It has 3 mortars in the place of where the silo has its rockets. Grounded wires. These are the ground drivers and ground mech pilots of the ground forces. Motto: crush all foes beneath us in our wake. Hill Climber Mech Driver Sentry. That's a tongue twister. Different than their piloted cousins in the Galactic Gazers, these pilots tend to be more armed on the head and torso. They do carry Zaiths, which are a new weapon for these sentries. They tend to be more laid back. They are also 4 feet tall. They have green circles on their hands. Sentry parts: entire back of the head, leaving arms normal, but hands are replaced. All grounding wire mecha pilots will follow the same patterns, but with different colors on their paws. Busterberg Mecha Driver Sentry. More aggressive and more moody than their hill climber brothers and sisters, they stand at 4'6" and tall and carry a xanther and a knife for hand-to-hand combat. They have a blue circle on their paws. Sentry parts refer to hill climber. Grotus Mecha Driver Sentry. They live in groups of 2 and share everything with their partner. They are also the calmest out of the mecha pilots, with the Bolzenheimer being the second calmest. They tend to travel with their partner to and from their mechas. They have yellow circles on their paws and stand at about 4'3" tall. Sentry parts refer to hill climber. Bolzenheimer Mecha Sentry. It's a driver too. Being the biggest out of all of the driver sentries at 4'9", they have a slight temper, but not as bad as the Busterberg driver sentry. They also carry a Xanthar and 6 additional Zaiths just in case of extended combat against invaders on their mechs. They have 2 red circles on their paws. Sentry parts refer to hill climber sentry. Pumpkin driver sentry. They only have 3 sentry parts. They all are similar to their normal driver sentries. They all have triangles on their paws and are all 4'2". They all have orange triangles on their paws. Sentry parts: entire forehead and both paws. All driver sentries share the same parts. Plow driver sentry. They carry 2 Zaiths and are the kindest sentry to the silos, and tend to offer rides to them to transport them around. They have red triangles on their paws and are 4'2" feet tall. Sentry parts refer to pumpkin sentry. Mower driver sentry. They tend to work more with hotspot sentries on their vehicles. They have yellow triangles and stand at 4'2". They also use Zaiths and knives when engaged in combat. Sentry parts refer to pumpkin driver sentries. We're almost done, folks. Templates Cloud. These are sentries in the smallest group, with only 2 sentries being used for heavy weapons combat and for taking down airships. Motto: making the sky fall since our birth. Artillery Heavy Sentry. Made to resemble a silo sentry with a small ion cannon on its back, and only fires once every hour with 1 shot before it has to rest. It stands at 4'10" and are armed with 2 built-in plasma guns on its wrists. They also tend to travel in packs of 6 to 8 sentries. Sentry parts: entire lower jaw with back, chest, entire arms except with hands, and stomach area. Artillery Light Sentry.
Smaller than their heavy brethren, standing at 4'5", they are armored with smaller plasma cannons, plasma cannon on their backs. It gets 6 shots before a 2-hour recharge, with more time being added with every single shot that is recharged before full rechargement. For example, if they fire, then they get 1 hour of 30 minutes of recharge, and they immediately add on an additional amount of time for every shot fired. Sentry parts: cheeks to back of head, down the neck, and their backs, everything else being normal. Weapons: Xanthar, an energy-based plasma rifle that uses ions collected from the air and concentrates them into a bolt which is fired at 120 miles per hour. Has a clip of 40 shots before cooldown. The Xanthar requires weekly cleaning to prevent malfunction or buildup. Zenith. No, it is Zenith. A long-range version of the Xanthar with an extended barrel and huger clip. They fire one bolt every 4.3 seconds with a clip cooldown of 6 shots before letting it rest for 23 seconds. Zaith, an energy-based pistol that fires 235 rounds around 100 miles per hour with a clip of 235 before cooling down, and a shot fired 34.4 seconds. Batar, a throwable spike tipped with poison of a natural berry the T's have adapted to eat. Teko, a spear-like weapon with dual tips. They are used to keep the peace. Knives, most are tipped with some form of poison or a flammable substance. Conquer, this is Toza's sword, enchanted by the souls of his 12th time great-grandfather to detect evil and ward off danger. Military transportation. These are the mechs, aircraft, and spacecraft and ground transportation of the Empire. Colonel. This is the standard ship of the Teesk used for escorts of medical ships and the most common fighter class for the Teesk. They measure 8 feet in length, 6 feet in height, and 6 feet in width, armored with 2 plasma cannons on each of its wings. Also piloted by a single pilot. Chestnut, the medical frigate of the Teesk Imperial Empire, is one of the most commonly used ships to also transport resources to allies and is accompanied with 40 to 60 colonels. It stands 16 feet in the main cabin/bridge, with the back of the ship being split into sectors, with the first being the hangar, second being the cargo, and the rear being the rest of the ship being medical bay at 20 feet high, with the rest of the ship measuring around 40 feet in length, 20 feet in width, and 20 feet in height at the highest point. It is manned by 4 pilots, 16 guards, and 10 medics. Hill climber. These mechs/mechas are used for terrain work and repair to small structures as well, pulling large cargo back to smaller orbital ships such as the Tomato or Potato. They stand at least 14 feet tall and with a weight of 4 tons. They are escorted by Busterbergs or Croppers for defense of both cargo and the mech. They are also manned by 2 pilots, are a quadruped with 1 pilot controlling the hook in the back for towing and the other in control of the mech. Busterberg. This mech walks on 6 legs and is armed with 12 surface soldiers and are around 8 feet and have all around 8 small cannons that fire defense shells of another metal called Ticorium, which is a native metal tougher than the other one, Calcium. Filled with the most low-level steels and glass. It stands about 18 feet and is 20 feet long, with a pilot crew of 12 pilots and 16 gunners. Cropper, the only flying/ground mech the Tesk own. It means the only one with 4 legs. With 4 guns filled with Ticorium shelled rounds, it walks on its 4 legs on the ground with rotating steel blades that allows for flight in 2 sections of each leg. They stand around 12 feet and are the second smallest mecha built for the ground and air use, manned by 2 pilots. Duster, a small mech-like spacecraft used for landing on both enemy and friendly ships. With its 4 legs, they have a similar look to Colonel's and normally fly beside them during attacks on the enemy. These ships have a harder exterior than their normal counterparts and are slightly bigger and with slightly better off weapons. Peeler, armed with a small drill, these mech look vastly similar to chestnuts, but are smaller and much faster. These mechas are used to mine for water in comets and other space rocks near and around TK for other resources. They are manned by 2 pilot crews and have no noticeable defense besides their drills. Potato. Potato is a spacefaring craft that is used to drop off 100 soldiers for routine scouting missions on planets far away. They travel in packs of 4 per scouting mission and carry 1 hill climber each. They are used also for trade with potential allies. They measure 25 feet in height and spanning 45 feet in length with a width of 20 feet, allowing for both resources and soldiers. Tomato. Used for war and invasions, the tomato allows for transport of 16 potatoes divided into its 8 hangars, with each hangar being 30 feet tall and 50 feet long with a width of 25 feet. With the 2 additional hangars for either 4 croppers or 2 busterbergs and manned by 10 pilots and 12 engineers. Pumpkin. The Pumpkin is a 3-manned tank used for terrain warfare and is the only tank the Tesk own. They are about 14 feet in length, 10 feet in height, and 8 feet in width. They also have 2 barrel/turrets that also carry 6 soldiers on its body. Plow. Plow are all-terrain vehicles used for scouting and are usually traded out for one of the mechas on foreign planets when non-allies or abandoned. They carry a total of 6 sentries, with 2 being the driver and the shotgun seats, and the other 4 hang back with any form of rifles, being about 12 feet in length and 6 feet in height and width. Mower. The mower is used for 2-man scouting and allows for 1 shooter and 1 driver. The mower represents the mix between a car and a bike, but hovers off the ground and reaches speeds up to 135 miles per hour. Crusher, a single-man vehicle used for nothing but just to exist because it was the first vehicle the Tesk ever made, but have no real use except to show their allies or just drive around in. Gratis, a land mech used with a huge gun that needs to be reloaded by 2 smaller mechs in order to fire again. It has enough power to take down 1 aircraft carrier. The reload process takes around 30 minutes to reload. There's only 12 built. It is 15 feet tall and 8 feet wide, with all sides walking on 4 legs. It is piloted by 2 pilots and 4 gunners. Night Cloud, an aerial mech ship used for invading ships and heavy artillery of enemy forces. These are only brought out for H.L.I.O or other smaller forces. Their wingspan is 20 feet from tip to tip, with the hull being around 25 feet long and armed with 6 turrets and 2 shuttle doors for ground forces. The Bolzenheimer, a mech on treads used for plowing enemy settlements. One is one of the most expensive mecha due to its use. Production of the Bolzenheimer was limited to 5 despite Thunder Flash's pleas. Skiller. A small mecha used for planetary co-ops to research and discover new forms of life from afar and out of reach of danger. After a tense argument between Lightning Rod and Toza finally gave in on spending more gold in order for this new mecha's purpose. It has not been worthless. It has not been a worthless purchase after all. It led to the discovery of new species.